Hazbin Hotel is the story of an evangelical demon trying to save souls by helping sinners change their wicked ways so they can leave hell and go to heaven. The main plot follows Charlie Morningstar as she tries to get both the demons and the angels on board with her plan and explores the lengths to which she'll go to accomplish this goal. These include her journey to become a strong leader and orator, which I covered extensively in my 5-part series on her rhetorical journey, and her willingness to fight for her own people and put herself in real, immediate danger to save them. In that series, specifically part 4, I briefly touched on the role Emily plays in shaping the moral and logical argument for pausing extermination and promoting redemption as a way of controlling overpopulation in hell. What I didn't dig into was how Emily works as a character and as a literary device. In this video, I'm going to cover what Emily represents in this story, both as a foil to Charlie and as a character in her own right, and what we can expect her arc to be moving into later seasons. Emily is a seraphim and holds a similar position in heaven as Charlie does in hell, which is to say she's often regarded with a certain amount of deference, but doesn't wield a lot of power. For example, she is included in Charlie's court hearing as an observer, and she's allowed to comment on the proceedings. Later, we see her in a conference room with Sarah, so we know she has access to the real decision makers. However, she doesn't get to make decisions. This is similar to how Charlie has a direct line with her dad, Lucifer, but doesn't have a lot of sway with the people in hell and doesn't get to decide how things get done. Additionally, Emily and Charlie have similar values and senses of justice, as shown in You Didn't Know when Emily joins Charlie on the courtroom floor and they sing,
"Was talk of virtue, just pretension, was I too naive to expect you to heed the morals you're purveying? That's what the fuck I've been saying."
This similarity between them is what makes Emily an effective foil to Charlie. A foil, in the literary sense, is a counterpart to your main character or protagonist that's so similar to them that the differences are revealing of some nuance or insight. Sometimes two characters are peers in every way and make different decisions at some key point. This serves to show what could have been had the main character taken a different path. Other times, the two make identical decisions, but are different in some external aspect like race or gender, which can be used to address how society treats people based on such attributes. This is the case with Emily and Charlie. The big difference between them is that one is from heaven and the other is from hell. Their origins inform everything from how much weight people give their words, to their perceived morality, to how they're perceived by the people they need to convince. Emily's residency in heaven gives her a leg up rhetorically over Charlie, who is seen, by virtue of being from hell, as immoral, sinful, undeserving, and not to be listened to, whereas Emily is literally the angel in charge of making everyone happy. She is as good as they get, and that informs how people see her and to what extent they allow her words to impact them. For example, in Charlie's hearing, the court dismisses Charlie's arguments, and it's not until Emily starts to call the angels out on their hypocrisy and their failure to live up to their ideals that the audience begins to argue amongst themselves about the right course of action.
Look at them fighting, they're at each other's throats.
In this way, Emily's status as an angel makes her a useful and powerful ally to Charlie. The distinction between Emily and Charlie also defines the stakes for each of them speaking out against injustice, with Emily having a lot more to lose. Charlie begins the series in hell. Every year she sees the devastation brought on her people by the exorcist angels.
Sorry, I get pretty worked up after an extermination happens.
And as princess of hell, feels responsibility to help and to save them.
I need to save my people more than anything.
From the moment we meet her, Charlie puts a lot on the line for sinners and to progress her own agenda. Repeatedly, she tries to broker deals and make connections, and she often makes a fool of herself for the chance of doing something to push her agenda and save souls. She puts a lien on her reputation, but we'll notice that there's a line she doesn't cross. Because of her hellborn status, Charlie gets a pardon from the exorcists.
The only reason you're still here is because Daddy gave you and your hellborn kind a pardon from an exorcist blade.
She's safe, whereas her people get slaughtered every year. She fights back in boardrooms and courtrooms, but doesn't pick up a weapon until the angels retract her hellborn exemption and targets her specifically.
You better save the date, cunts, because we're coming to your hotel first.
She didn't choose to become a target, but she's been made into one. When they actually square off, Adam challenges her impulse and decision to stand and fight, saying,
Risking your immortal life for sinners? That's some crazy shit. Even for Lucifer's brat.
This behavior Charlie exhibits can be understood through the lens of what Huey Newton, co-founder of the Black Panther Party, called revolutionary suicide. Revolutionary suicide is a response to the knowledge that the system you live in is deadly to you and people like you, and that on a long enough timeline, the system will kill you. Knowing that the system you live in is unlivable and that you'll die no matter what, whether you live in passive acceptance of the system or rage against it in an attempt to make it change, some activists choose the latter and choose to make their death, if and when it comes to that, mean something. He uses this paradigm to point out, with regards to the racial civil rights movement of the mid-century, while white people can often be useful allies, they will never commit themselves as fully as black people because they're not being killed by the system. They simply don't feel the morbid pressure to choose between dying within an oppressive system and dying for the cause of trying to dismantle the system. Because of this distinction, he argues, there will always be a line where white allies will stop short of where a black activist will continue. This isn't to say that a white ally isn't useful, or that they don't want the same end goal of equality, or even that they want to preserve the power structure that benefits them, but only that they will stop short of using tactics that endanger their sense of self-preservation. The other things might be true to a greater or lesser degree, but he was very specifically talking about one's willingness to endanger oneself to further the cause. In the real world, Huey Newton fought against anti-black prejudice and violence. In the world of Hazbin Hotel, we see a similarly oppressive system positioning heaven and the heavenly over hell and the hellish, with enough parallels to this real-world philosophy to make an analysis of Newton's ideas useful to understanding the characters and plot of the show. So, where does this leave Emily as a foil to Charlie's newfound revolutionary suicide? Emily's angelic nature puts her in a different position from Charlie. At the end of season 1, she's aware of the injustice and wants that injustice to end. She feels compassion for the sinners who are being targeted by the exorcists, but she's not directly impacted by it and has a lot to lose if she were to get involved. After Charlie's court hearing, Sarah pulls Emily aside and reminds her not to question the system.
Please. If you start to question, you could end up like Lucifer, fallen.
In this two-tiered system, in which angels have a million little privileges, including safety and comfort, losing your place in heaven is a huge loss. Asking an angel to give all that up is not dissimilar from asking a white person in a white supremacist society to give up their white privilege by becoming a race traitor. Both in the real world and in the show, there's a strong incentive in place to keep those with privileges from siding with justice. Emily can help up to and not past a certain point, no matter how much she feels for their cause, and no matter how much she wants to, if she's going to keep her angelic status and privileges. The dynamic that was set up in season 1 for Emily's character arc in later seasons is, how far will she go? She's on Charlie's side, but she can only go up to a certain point before her questioning leads to her becoming a fallen angel. We've seen it happen twice before. First, when Lucifer gives humans free will, and again, when Vaggie spares a child from the extermination. Both of these acts were things I, and probably you too, would consider to be good. But remember, God doesn't want us to be good, just obedient. He doesn't even want us to know what good is. So Emily's insistence on moral choices may cost her her heavenly privileges and put her in the position of becoming a race traitor, in turn making her a target. To this, I'll add the question of, Is this a desirable outcome? She has a lot of clout with the angels because of her angelic status. If she were to lose that, Charlie would lose a lot of the power that comes with having her as an ally. Emily's struggle moving forward will be in finding a balance between being true to herself and her sense of justice and maintaining her position in heaven so that she can use her credibility to continue to aid Charlie. However, I do not believe that she will remain an angel forever. Vivian Medrano seems to enjoy writing characters who lose their status and privileges for the sake of doing what's right. In addition to Lucifer and Vaggie, there's also Stolas from Medrano's other show, Hell of a Boss. Stolas is a demon from the Ars Goetia who got into a mess of an affair with an imp, including letting the imp use his grimoire to travel to Earth, which he's really not supposed to do. In season 2, episode 11, he has a choice: let the imp, whom he loves, die and keep his power, or come clean and face the consequences. He makes the decision to come clean, thinking he's giving up his life to save the imp.
I must make all of hell aware. Fuck it! I am the mastermind, the hand that holds the strings.
But instead gets stripped of his power for 100 years. This is a slap on the wrist on Hell's timeline, but for the rest of the show, he's diminished. While the circumstances are a little different, Stolas did it to save someone he loves, not for some higher ideal.
I would rather be dead. I can live life without you by my side. So if it keeps you alive, what are you doing? I don't deserve it.
This storyline and Medrano's 2 fallen angels provide a significant precedent to indicate an interest on Medrano's part in writing such storylines. Season 1 ends at a tipping point. Emily is one of 3 people who know beyond a doubt that sinners can be redeemed to heaven.
What? Where am I? Oh. Hello?
What will she do with that knowledge, and how far will she go as an ally and accomplice to Charlie's mission? I'm looking forward to finding out in season 2 and beyond.